Okay, so let's talk about ecosystem services. Ecosystem services essentially provide humans with something, okay? So they directly impact humans. Ecosystem services, as the vocab term here says, is that they are processes by which life-supporting resources like clean water, timber, fisheries, and agricultural crops are produced. Okay, and there's 4 different types of ecosystem services that are described throughout this section. Sometimes regulating and supporting can be tough to decipher, and so I wanted to make sure that you really understand that I would say 95% of the time, and always on a test, if you're given an ecosystem service and you're asked to describe which type of service it is, which of these 4 that it is, in general, supporting services are essentially anything that involves the biogeochemical cycles. And so if you can remember that, that is a good way to determine regulating versus supporting. We'll do some examples of this in class. One thing that they say in the book, which I and many APES teachers disagree with, other teachers that also have this book, they say that pollination is a supporting service. And while I get I understand why they're saying that. They're saying that because pollination, plants would not be able to reproduce without pollination, so it's considered an ecosystem service. So if you were looking at it that way, the plant life cycle would not continue without bees pollinating them. Then I would consider pollination a supporting service. That would kind of fall under, the carbon cycle maybe, plants being able to sustain life. I would consider that as part of maybe like that carbon cycle. But if we're talking about pollination to get crops, that's going to be a regulating service. Okay, so it kind of depends on how you're talking about it. Pollination is one that the AP doesn't usually pull up on a test because that one gets tricky, because most of the time how we think of it, it's probably going to be more of a regulating service. But if we're talking about pollination to sustain plant life, then I would probably put that in the supporting service as well. So just so you know that, that is a tricky one, and that one tends to get people confused. So they tend to avoid that on the test. All right, so that kind of goes into this with this exam tip right here, so you can kind of read through that if you want. Another key point that I found in this section was that human activities can disrupt ecosystem services, and when we disrupt them, there can be a lot of economic and ecological consequences, whether that's a positive thing or a negative thing. Okay, so realize that that is a key point in your reading here. And then I think it's also important to understand the human role in impacting our environment is crucial to doing well on the test. So understanding all of this information on ecosystem services, but then understanding or being able to explain how that impacts humans, that's kind of what is going to be vital for you in this section. Okay, and I think that is it. Make sure it's just another reminder that you're looking over these AP practice questions. If you have any questions about what those answers might be, or if there's something that you're confused about, make sure you ask me, because these answers are not available for you. And I would definitely be able to help you with that, either in Pathways or during a free moment in class. Okay, I think that's it for Module 9, and I'll be back next time to talk about Module 10, Island Biogeography.